Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon to viewers from all walks of life. This is Denzo Moss, and I welcome you to the page of truth, enlightenment, freedom, and the page of breaking empires free. I hope you all woke up well, and I hope the week will go as planned. So for the new ones, if it's your first time logging in and narcissism resonates with you, I welcome you to take a moment, like my page, share, and subscribe. For the ones who have always been with me, I welcome you back, and I thank you for your continued love and support. So I don't know specifically what I'm going to call this video, but I'm going to talk about why a narcissist is very uncomfortable with holidays. It's something that came to me this morning. So if you have been with these individuals, if you've been with a narcissist, one of the things you're going to realize, or even sometimes one of the things you remember in particular, is the holiday moments. So you have very definitely, you are definitely familiar of a situation whereby you have gone out with a narcissist to a holiday, and all of a sudden, the holiday in itself turned out to become toxic, turned out to become very, very difficult, and turned out to become chaotic and toxic. And you also remember maybe one of those days you was on a long trip to the countryside, and for some reason, the narcissist happened to jump out of the car and abandon you maybe sometime by the roadside. So what I understand with this situation is my experience as well, including other people who are familiar with narcissism. My experience also has been that narcissists, they hate. Actually, they hate. This is one of the biggest things that narcissists, first of all, they fear and they hate something what they call abandonment. When you think about a holiday, you're going on a vacation, the narcissist is thinking about abandonment. Actually, in most of the cases, they are thinking about you as their partner or whatever friend. You're going on a holiday, actually, you're going to abandon them and you're going to drop them off. So they believe, the narcissist believes that if you're going on a holiday, and again, it does not matter whether you go with them or sometimes if you go by yourself or you go alone or you go with them. Anything involving holidays is actually, for a narcissist, it equals to abandonment. It does not matter if you go with a narcissist to a holiday. You can go with a narcissist to the best place in the countryside. You can go with the narcissist abroad to the best country. You reach your destination, and all of a sudden, from nowhere, out of nowhere, you start a fight. They will start a fight with you because they believe in their wiring. The narcissist is wired in a way. They believe that anything what involves celebration is actually an act of abandonment. So they believe that anything that involves celebration, if you are going out to celebrate, for example, even sometime you can end up sometime on a birthday party, you can end up on a wedding, you can end up on a graduation party, anything that involves celebration. The narcissist believes you are actually putting your focus into something else, and you're actually abandoning them. And that is one of the biggest things that the narcissist fears. The narcissist, they hate and they fear abandonment. So that's why most of the times you see, when you're on holidays, the holidays turn out to become very toxic. All of a sudden you start fighting for nothing, for no apparent reason. You start with you will start with something very small. You see, for a narcissist to fight with you, they don't need something very huge. It does not have to be a very huge event. They can start with anything small. So all of a sudden you're going to start fighting with them starting with very, very small issues. Actually, even non-issues. Most of the cases, the narcissists, they're fighting about non-issues. You can fight with the narcissist about a cup of coffee. Maybe you're on a holiday, on a vacation, and all of a sudden you went to a certain cafe in the corner or somewhere, or a certain restaurant in the corner. When you came back, the narcissist is going to fight with you, and they're going to ask you, actually, why did you leave them and go somewhere and have a cup of coffee? Just for a cup of coffee, they will start a fight with you because of that. But actually, the narcissist, they are not fighting because of the cup of coffee. They are fighting actually because they believe you are actually setting them up for abandonment. So in their wiring, in their programming, they are believing that any moment you happen to leave them by themselves, you are actually abandoning them. Most of the discards, the nurses discard have actually happened either during the holidays. You were with the narcissist on the holidays, and then you started fighting together. A fight broke out between the two of you on the holidays, and that fight actually led to the discard, to the separation, to the discard. But even then, if you are the person who has gone on a holiday by yourself, should it happen that you have abandoned the narcissist and you have gone to the holidays by yourself, it is very likely you don't know who you're dealing with. But if it has happened that you have actually left the narcissist at home and you have gone to the holiday by yourself, that is a one-way ticket to a discard. Actually, that is one of the biggest ways the narcissist, and even the biggest reason the narcissist will use to perform a discard. Should you ever find yourself going for a holiday and you leave somebody at home, and that person ever texts you, ever messages you of their intention to separate with you, or even sometime you coming back from a long trip, maybe 2 weeks, you were away on a 2 or 3 weeks trip, you come back home, it is very likely on reaching the house, the narcissist has already packed all their bags and they have left that partnership. So most of the cases, what is happening is that any moment you happen to leave the narcissist, you happen to abandon them off, apparently they are believing that you are, because the narcissist does not believe that you are entitled, or even sometimes they don't believe that you should ever even risk leaving them on their own in the house, or even leaving them on their own at home by themselves. Should you attempt to do that, in case you don't know that you're dealing with a narcissist, it is very likely on that holiday where you have intended to go, or where you have gone to, it is very likely you're going to end up with an SMS, a discard that is going to come through an SMS. They are going to send you an SMS and they are going to threaten to discard you. Because as soon as you leave, if you're dealing with a covert narcissist, first of all, they are going to fight that vacation. They are going to fight with you about having that holiday or about that vacation. So, should you force your way through, because most of the time you don't know you're dealing with a narcissist, should you force your way and actually go to that vacation, it is going to turn out very difficult for you. As soon as you come back from that holiday, a fight is going to start straight away. That is if the narcissist has not already abandoned you, or even sometimes has not already discarded you. Most of the discards, they have happened actually during the holidays. Vacations, holidays. The narcissist believes in their wiring, they are wired in that way. They believe that any moment when you have a holiday, any moment when you want to go out to celebrate, you want to go to the countryside to visit your mother, you want to go to the countryside to visit your children, you want to go somewhere, enjoy yourself, have a very beautiful holiday with your family, the narcissist believes that any moment you decide to go for a holiday, actually it is a threat to them, because they believe you are actually abandoning them. And they actually, in their wiring, in their head, they believe you are most likely not going to come back to them. So they will usually use that time. If you ever leave that moment, it is that moment they are going to use actually to start to scramble for supply. In most of the cases, they may even have the supply. But in case they do not have that supply, that is the time they are going to use actually to scramble for supply. Your departure in itself, wherever you want to go, wherever you have gone, your departure in itself actually makes a narcissist scramble for supply, because in their wiring, in their mind, they believe you are intending and you're planning to abandon them. And that is actually what they are going to use against you. Most of the cases, if you find that actually the narcissist already has got a supply on the side, maybe that time you don't know that, but they have got a supply on the side, it is very likely actually they are going to discard you during that holiday. 3 things may happen. 1, they are going to send you an SMS discard, or they are going to call you and discard you. But normally they like to send SMS because they are not genuine, so they don't like to call. So they will send you an SMS discard. 2, it is very likely you may return from that holiday and you're going to find actually that the narcissist has already packed their bags and left. They have already discarded, they have already disappeared out of thin air. They have left that partnership for no apparent reason. I've heard about those cases. I've coached countless of people who have told me that they have gone out on a holiday, and on coming back, they have found the house has been cleared. On returning, they have discovered that the house has been cleared, and those narcissists have already left the proximity, and they have vanished into thin air. Or number three, what is likely to happen, you're going to come back to a very brutal fight with the narcissist. You're going to be answerable, first of all, why did you leave the narcissist at home? There's questions to answer because you are not entitled, according to the narcissist wiring and their mind, you are not entitled to ever spend any hour or a minute or even sometimes couple of days outside of that partnership. You are supposed, in their wiring, you are supposed to be with them 24/7, day after day, month after month, year after year. That is how their wiring works. So should you ever enforce a holiday, should you ever enforce a vacation, whereby you want to even sometime to go for a week, to go for 2 weeks, to go for a month or even sometime 2 months, somewhere outside that partnership, and you're not taking the narcissist with you, you should expect one of those three things. You are either going to be discarded or over the SMS, or you're going to come back home to an empty house. You're going to find a house that the narcissist has already left the home. Or thirdly, you're going to come back to a very, very brutal confrontation by the narcissist. So you're going to have a very big fight when you come back. You're going to experience the deepest, actually the most brutal narcissistic rage you can ever imagine. So that's how it works with the narcissist. Holidays for them is not a thing. They do not believe in celebration. They don't believe in birthdays. They don't believe that somebody can wake up in the morning and go attend their sister's wedding in another country. Or they don't believe that they need to celebrate. You are going to celebrate your son's birthday. You're going to meet your son. You're going to meet your children. They do not believe in anything. They don't believe in getaways. Most of those holidays, you see them taking you in the love bombing phase. That is just for a short period of time because they are trying to suck you into that relationship. If you ever see them, like most of the victims, most of us, the victims who have been in abuse, in the beginning stages, they have actually even used holidays to stage an act, to put on an act. But they are just taking you on those holidays actually because they are trying to sap you into that relationship. They are love bombing you. And sometimes they use the holidays as an excuse, actually, to get into your life, to try to convince you to stay with them. But as soon as that happens, people, that is it. There are no more holidays. There are no more vacations. There are no more trips abroad. Even if you happen to have one or two later on, those trips are going to turn out very bad. They're going to turn out very, very, very toxic. And at the end of the day, people, it is very likely you're going to be discarded by the narcissist. So that's it for my video, people. Much love and blessings. If you have any query, if you have a comment, let me know in the section below what you think. Until then, I'll get in touch with you, people. Much love and blessings. There's more signing out.